This leads me to what I want to convey to you, to both the mothers and the daughters, that money equals power. So often, I see women who are only too eager to surrender control of their finances. Now, you would never let someone else decide where you live, where you send your kids to school, or how to vote. So why would you relinquish financial power when it covers nearly every aspect of your life? At some point in their lives, 90% of women become responsible for their finances. So being comfortable with finances and investing is not just important, it's an imperative. Here are some of the reasons that women give for relinquishing control. And there are many. I am too busy. I don't have time. I don't have a financial education. I'm embarrassed to ask questions. The topic makes me afraid or insecure. The topic is too complicated and I can't understand. My financial advisor speaks to my husband. I prefer to be dependent and don't want the responsibility. Or that the topic of money is unseemly, distasteful, or unromantic. Every one of those reasons is just an excuse. And you don't have the luxury of surrendering your control. Remember, ladies, men are not born with an inherent understanding of finance any more than women are, even though they may pretend to be. They just don't believe that they can get away with not paying attention to it. And neither can you. I have 2 sets of twins, and each set is a boy and a girl. I am nothing if not efficient. And I have exactly the same expectations for each of my children about their responsibility to take control of their finances. They know they will need to support themselves. My younger daughter believes this will be through her gymnastics career. I ask you, how many Jewish gymnasts can you name? My expectations are clear. Hers might not quite be yet. And I bet your expectations are clear because you are here today. What's the difference between a Jewish mother with expectations and a Rottweiler? Eventually the Rottweiler lets go. So, let's turn from expectations to execution. Think about it as becoming financially fit. You need a training regimen and a diet. Jewish girls can relate to a diet. So there are things you always need to eat, things you need to always avoid, and the occasional indulgence every once in a while. Let's start with the always. I imagine you all know what a budget is. You always need a budget. You can't just spend whatever you want and hope you don't run out of money at the end. And while you may not have a steady stream of income of your own right now, that's okay. You might have an allowance, you might have some money from odd jobs, like babysitting, or you might have some bat mitzvah money saved. Always have some money saved. And I want you to always have some money invested. And I don't just mean set aside in a savings account. I want you to learn about investing. Take a small portion and buy a stock or a few stocks. It can be one that you know, like Google or Apple or Whole Foods or Under Armour or JP Morgan. And I want you to read about it. I want you to follow the stock. And I encourage you to read their annual report, which is easy at the beginning with the CEO's letter to shareholders. And you can get that off the company's website. And those letters describe the business and their goals and their performance in the last year. Although I want you to keep in mind those letters are usually very self-congratulatory. I also recommend the book, Investing in Stocks for Dummies. It'll give you some of the basics, and I'm sure that the book that Lori held up was probably very interesting as well, though I'm not familiar with it. Now, if you don't feel comfortable picking a stock, you can start with a mutual fund. And there are all kinds of funds. You can look for U.S. funds, you can look for growth, you can look for emerging markets. For you younger ladies, I would suggest something a little more aggressive because you're young, like growth or maybe emerging markets. And I recommend the Vanguard funds because they do a very good job with low fees. What I do is I run a hedge fund, which is an investment fund, and our strategy is we try to pick value stocks while we hedge against the market's movements.